Carrrnversations. You guys, welcome to today's Carrrnversation. So today's my birthday, and I wanted to share just a couple of things. So I'm by myself, and I really wanted to make this conversation very personal, and very. I wanted to really have a moment where I'm going to be very vulnerable. But I'm going to start off with, what am I most grateful for? And I'm getting emotional already. So one of the things I'm most grateful for is I'm grateful for my family. A couple of years ago, I wasn't as close to my family as I am now. And I got close to my family when I wrote Reflections. When I was busy, I'm getting so emotional now, but when I was busy writing Reflections, I was retelling. So although Reflections is a compilation of all stories and things like that, but in the middle of Reflections, I share my personal story and my personal journey, things that have hurt me, like really things that caused me like a lot of pain. And as I was writing that story, it allowed me a chance to look back at where my family comes from. And because also there was now a little bit of maturity, I was able to start looking at my family as people, right? Because a lot of the times, if you're going to look at your family from a point of expectation, this is your uncle, this is what he's supposed to do, this is your grandmother, this is what they're supposed to do, then you will miss out on the human element and the human aspect of who they are. So Reflections allowed me to look at my eldest uncle as just a person, my parents as just people, and then only in relation to me. So after Reflections came out, I have this memory of Reflections was out, and everybody was now telling the story of the type of child I was, and they were around the fire, and everyone started sharing their story, like in my family. And I come from a family who has a very big sense of humor, so they're not so much into talking about issues. We don't talk about issues. I mean, and that's the truth for most Black households, is we don't speak about the things that hurt us. And I saw how Reflections allowed everyone else to share their story, and just that, and then I started loving them so much, and I felt safe around them. I think maybe because I felt like they didn't, and well, according to my understanding and my perception, is I felt like they didn't understand me until after I wrote Reflections. I felt like everyone gets me, everyone gets my feelings. I was able to say what I wanted to say, and so then it felt like Reflections opened a door for me in my family, and it opened a space for me in my family. So I'm grateful for my family. My family is, by my family I mean my mother, my father, my uncles, who are the beginning and the end of who I am, my grandparents, who again are the beginning and the end of who I am. I'm very much am because of my grandmother. Very grateful for my grandmother, because my grandmother introduced me to the faith that I now strongly believe in. She introduced me to a God that I build my life on, right? So my grandmother with her flaws, my grandmother with the many things that I go, girl, but she introduced me to the faith. She introduced me to the God that makes sense to me, the God that holds my life together. So then I'm grateful for my relationship with my mother. There's so much healing. My mom is my person now. Then I'm grateful for my friends. I've got great friends. I've got friends that show up, friends that show up. Most importantly, friends that show up. Maybe what I still don't have is, I still don't have a friend that holds me accountable. So, but I don't want to talk about what I don't have. I want to talk about, so I'm grateful for my friends that really love me and support me. And then I'm grateful for the children I teach. Well, I'm grateful that I have a job, I have income, but I'm so grateful for the children that I teach. I think because I've been teaching for 5 years, I've been teaching for 5 years now, I'm able to really genuinely look back and sort of see the impact of the last 5 years. And can I tell you, it is such a gift for me that I've been able to create lifelong relationships with the children I teach. And what is beautiful about that is when I said that, when I first stepped into the classroom, I was like, I'm here for the relationships. Yes, we'll pass and I'll teach you and make sure what you've got, but I'm here to love you and I'm here to develop and I'm here to mentor. And so I've been able to have lifelong relationships with the children I teach, which is so significant, which is so special, because it's just like, and what's so pretty for me, what's so pretty and so precious is sometimes I can still see myself in the children that I teach. I look at them and I'm like, this child, you sound like me. You sound like me. So sometimes I start to imagine the type of parent I start to imagine my little babies walking around and I'll be like, oh, this is my child. This is my, like, I can already see myself in some of the students I teach. I'm going, this is me. You are me, you know? And so I'm grateful for that. And then I'm grateful for, what else? I'm grateful for my writing gift. My writing passion. Writing saves my life each time. So that's what I'm grateful for. Then let's get into what are some of my biggest lessons thus far. I have learned that things take time. And if you don't understand the concept of time, you will die every time when things don't go according to your plan. I've really learned to appreciate the concept of time and seasons, that it's such a, like, nature really shows us that life is seasonal, that we have hot days, we've got cold days, we've got days where it's windy, we've got days where things are blooming again. And if it's true for nature, it's true for us, right? And so I'm really at a place where I'm starting to learn that life really is like that. It's really, if you take a moment, your dark days, it's not going to always be like that. There, and not just that it's not always going to be like this, but there's a reason why our dark days come. They are not useless. And when our blooming days come and everything starts to grow again, that's not always going to be the case. And there's a reason why it happens when it happens, right? I have this picture of a tree bearing fruit, and that the tree will bear fruit when it's supposed to bear fruit, because at that time there's people that need the fruit, that type of thing. And so we have to also get into alignment of, we are seasonal. Our things are happening in our life as in seasons. And appreciate the season you're in. It's not wasted. Nothing is wasted. So that's the biggest lesson. I'm there now. In I want to say my early years, I used to feel very pressured because I felt like I was running. I was running out of time. I was running out of time, and that I didn't have, oh my goodness, I just had this rush, oh my goodness, this is not going to happen. This is not going to happen. And now I'm like, it's going to happen when it does. Like, one day, eventually there's no way that I could be putting out so much content and then one day we don't end up having a proper conversation studio. That's not how life works. Life is, the whole concept is you will reap where you've sown, right? So I don't know for how long I'm going to be having conversations rather like this. But the truth is, because of time and because of seeds, the whole thing of, so I respect that. So now I'm very aware that things will only bloom where I've sown something. You can't expect a miracle in a field that you didn't plant anything. That's a whole word, right? And so that's true for me as well. I'm at a place where I'm like, I'm doing content. Eventually something's going to come out of it. And it's like, even I look at it in my writing. I didn't start writing when Reflections came out. I was writing in grade 6. In grade 7, and my mother will tell you stories of how I would win these Barbie dolls through my writing competition. And so by the time Dear Black Parents is coming out, there is a sharpening, there's a growth, but also there is a bit of a sharpening in my writing that has taken place because I do it so much. So I appreciate time, or my biggest lesson has been time. It's been seasons. It's been, you've got to sow. You want to see that, sow in those areas. And when it comes to relationships, man, listen. Whoo! I could write a book. Okay, but maybe not a book. Maybe just a chapter, okay? When it comes to relationships, one of my biggest lessons has been, and I say this all the time, Dr. Sean has a saying where he says, there is no relationship that is greater than the people that are in it. So we want a great relationship without being great people individually. And again, the whole concept of seeds and time is where you sow, you will reap. Now, when I look at relationships, I'm very much aware that I have to get you. I have to be in a space where I'm at my best to attract my best so that this thing could be your very best. And that every relationship, it's crazy because I always say, people say the world doesn't revolve around you. And I say it does, right? Every relationship is really here to reveal something about yourself that you didn't know. And so if you don't understand that, you will make a relationship about the other person, and it's not, it's really about you. It's here to teach you how to give love. It's here to teach you how to receive love. It's here to teach you how to forgive. It's here to teach you how to show up for somebody else. And if you miss that, you will miss the whole concept, because ultimately we are all here to be the better version of ourselves and to be what God has ordained and called us to become. And so if we treat relationships anything other than this is my mirror, this is who I am, then we will miss it. It's you are showing me who I am. You are showing me that I love gifts or I love words of affirmation by the way that you and I are relating to one another. And that's been the biggest area of my relationships. And I really feel we do ourselves a disservice whenever we settle for less than what we require and what we want and what we desire. And whenever we are settling for less, we are ultimately saying, I don't believe I can have the very best. Oh, I rhymed. I don't believe I can have the very best. I always ruin a good moment by saying these stupid things in between. Anyway, so I don't believe I can have the very best. So I'm going to settle for what I think I can have. So sometimes our settling is rooted in fear. And we've got to decide, am I going to do this thing with fear, or am I going to do this thing with enthusiasm and some faith on that thing, right? And then another lesson is I've really learned, this is like a shaky area, the loving myself parts, because I like me a lot, but sometimes I'm just like, girl, you don't love you hard enough. So that's that. I've learned a lot in that area. And then what I still hope for. So when it comes to what I'm still hoping for or what I'm still trusting for is, yes, I was sharing with Tobani that as much as yes, one day I want to have a show and I want to, but now where I'm at now is I really want to become a mom. I have one of my greatest desires is to become a parent. I am excited to become a Black mother. Simply because when I look at my mom and I look at my grandmother, I'm like, yo, I can't wait to, I love that. And also the more I teach, the more I'm like, yo, I can't wait to raise my own kids. I want to love my children. I want to teach my children. And I think more than anything else, when I think of being a parent, I just think of someone who comes from me. I think of how am I. So what I believe about parenting is that I love the saying of the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree, is that you are the tree and you make these apples, and these are your apples that you give to the world, but you get to raise your apple first before you give to the world to share and to enjoy. So I can't wait to experience that as a mom one day, where I have my own kids, I raise them, I teach them all that I know, I set principles that I live by, right? So that, so that's what I still look for. And I know, see, I try and live a very principled life. I try and live a very principled life because I understand that I cannot give out who I am not to my children. So I try. It's hard. It's hard because we desire things that, just the nature of who we are is that we desire things that are immediate gratification, instant gratification, and a lot of principles are they need a bit of time. And what I look forward to is, of course, to grow deeper and more in love with Jesus.